There's a question about what your most memorable day has been on duty. So Mariton, do you want to lead us off with this one?
Yeah, okay. We've had two eruptions recently in 2018. Mayon erupted, and this year Taal erupted. So those days were quite memorable. Them being the worst days, worst possible days for an eruption to occur. There are weekends. We have skeletal workforce in the office during the weekend, and everyone was just trying to get to the office, and the rapidity of the escalation. For example, in Taal, seismic swarm started at 11 in the morning, and we've had the start of the phreatic eruption at 1 in the afternoon. So it was really a very anxious and urgent time for us. We had to communicate our information for preemptive evacuation by word of mouth in the local level first, before we could actually issue an official bulletin stating the alert level raise and evacuation. So it was a lot of work for our observatory to disseminate the information that the Taal Volcano Island has to be evacuated. And this happened also in Mayon. So we had have to have preliminary information to the local government what they should do before we can actually release the official statement. And this has always been a challenge for us, in that when we are on holidays or in weekends and we have a volcanic crisis, which almost always happens, and our volcanoes always erupt at the worst possible times. In 2018, we had just had a typhoon, and our stations were knocked down, and there were only 2 operational stations at the time when Mayon started erupting. So these are the most memorable days in recent years that I've had.
Great. Sebastian, do you want to go next?
Sure. I have a quite nice story. So my most memorable day was the seismic crisis that happened at Copawe volcano, where it went to red alert. I started working not very recent, quite recently in the survey. So we got to the nearest town where almost 1,500 people were evacuated, and we're trying to see what was going on. And so arriving then, having meetings with the authorities, military, deciding what was going on, what might happening. And also it was my first experience trying to deploy the first seismometers over the Argentinian side of the volcano. So there's quite a lot of pressure. Everyone's expecting everything to work to know what might be going on. Luckily, the volcano didn't erupt, so it was a false alarm. But for me, it was an amazing experience that I still remember. And it was very good for me for future things to know how everything works, how to react, because there's something that they don't teach you at the PhD or universities, and it's how to deal with those types of situations, how to address, how to convince people, how to explain decision makers. And I think those things comes from experience, probably.
Jonathan, we can go to you.
Cool. Before I go on with my story, I'd say it's not just things you learn from experience, so that is where you learn a lot of them. And I'd encourage people who are looking at kind of more operational observatory careers to think about how they can grow those skills during their PhDs. So that could be teaching, that could be working with people from a lot of different places, that could be outreach. All of those things are immensely useful later on. And I won't go into too much detail, but for me, the most memorable day was definitely when Fakadi erupted in December last year. So I was actually at AGU. So I was kind of activated remotely. But yeah, that was obviously a very memorable event. It'll probably live long and impact volcanology in New Zealand for quite a while. And yeah, it was it was an unheralded kind of phreatic event, but there were people in the crater at the time. So yeah, okay, I won't go into too much detail. I'll pass it on.
Otter, what's your most memorable day? Whoops. Haru?
Yeah, horrible day. 5 years ago, yeah, August, middle August, Sakurajima had intense earthquake swarm. So Japan Meteorology Agency, during that time, Japan Meteorology Agency raised alert level from 3 to 4. So several people evacuate from their houses. But we were very busy because all media asked us, not the GMA, ask us. So professors and me describe situation, how happened. So we were very busy. We cannot conduct survey and research during at the time. So after that, we started to research 1 week after, and we should communicate with local government, Japan Meteorological Agency, for every day for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, their alert level down, but there is no big eruption at Sakurajima. So it was a terrible experience just 5 years ago.